Hello everyone and welcome to yet another live coding and chill. I'm your host, Johnny. Delighted to be here. Hope you're having an amazing week. Let me know what you're up to. Let me know what you're working on. Today we'll be going deeper into PocketBase and having a light CMS admin interface to work with SvelteKit so we can give something to our clients, maybe give them access to be able to create blog posts like this. So on the previous live stream, we were more theoretical. We talked about all the ways you could possibly be fetching data now, today, in a modern way in 2024 with SvelteKit and maybe React, maybe some other ways. So we talked about client-side, server-side through internal APIs, external APIs, backend for frontends, BFEs or BFFs, whatever you want to call them. We talked about a lot of theory, and we made this app as an example as well. This is an app that you can click around as well. There are links in the description, so let me know what you think. Let me know, does this thing work for you or not? On which size are you seeing them? We're doing some cool stuff with container queries as well. Well, I'm not a designer, so maybe you think that they look rubbish, but I think they look quite cool. And today we'll be doing more practice. We will be going into the PocketBase admin interface. PocketBase is the all-in-one admin, database, API, and more that I think was the missing piece for how can you do a modern CMS with SvelteKit or Next.js and those frameworks. And I've been really liking it. There are some limitations that it has that we can talk about if you ask as well. But today I thought it'd be fun to explore how you can handle images and what's the most fun way to handle images in any frontend place. I think it's carousels. So we'll be doing a magnetic image carousel with SvelteKit and shadcn. We'll be uploading some images in the admin UI, then seeing how to fetch those images to render them in our SvelteKit app, and then we'll talk about optimizing those images so to get better performance, prevent layout shift, all of those core web vital important things. And who knows, we may do more stuff. I'm always up to hear suggestions in the descriptions. We may talk more about the various fields that you can have in the admin interface here. So we have like the regular text field, and we have the rich text, which gives you what you see is what you get editor. But the one I'm excited about to talk today is the hero and carousel thing. So let's see how that will go. And I'll be adding the timestamps as we go so we can add them later. So if you are from the future, you can click on the chapters on the timestamps and get on the parts that interest you the most faster. So that's the plan for today. I guess, did I actually predict that we may want a timestamp for this? I guess after the preamble, I can talk about my magnetic carousel with Tailwind and Svelte. This is a video that I made myself, if that's alright. I'm talking about the various ways you can do a magnetic carousel with modern CSS, even without Tailwind, but specifically with Tailwind as well, because I use it all the time now. And I think it's quite funny how people get triggered by Tailwind, so I use it more and more. It just drives me to use it even more. And every time I do one of those edited videos, they're gonna be much more information per second than these live streams. These live streams are exploratory for me as well, more like real life work. I kinda know, I've done some prep, some research, I know how we're gonna go. But for sure, I will make mistakes. In the videos, it's like every second, it's all about you. Like, how can you learn more things per second? So none of, like and subscribe. And before we get to the next part, we do this. And, there is jokes and memes because I like those. But I think those helps with teaching as well. Anyway, enough about me. Check out this older video to see how you could do a magnetic carousel with vanilla CSS or with Tailwind, and specifically with SvelteKit, like tie a few anchors together. But today we will be using shadcn-svelte, which is using a specific carousel library, which takes care of a few things, like in a few different devices, touch devices, maybe this will work. not exactly the same. Some people are asking, how do you do autoplay, for example? And you can do it with SvelteKit and write in your own code. So maybe we could do that. But very often, as it happens, there is a lightweight tool that does the job for you. Tested, battle tested, literally tested with maybe end-to-end, maybe unit tests, integration tests, but also battle tested in that it's popular and people have used it, and it's not just this person on the internet thinks this is the way to do it. So there is value in that as well. So CSS-wise, doing the carousel, I go through it in that 10-minute video. Some concerns that may arise, some extra features like autoplay that we could be doing after, that we may have questions about after watching this video. We'll take care of all of that because we will be using a specific carousel component today. But I think that's it for the preamble, if there are not any questions in the chat, and we can get going with the code. My OBS, which is the streaming software that I use, has been acting wonky because I updated. I am an engineer, so I do the thing that most consumers don't do, and we hate them for that. I did update to the latest version, but it has indeed caused some issues with images. So if OBS just crashes out and the stream ends, apologies. I guess those are the high stakes. Stay tuned to find out, do I manage to do this before the OBS software crashes and the stream ends? I think we will. I think this may be a short one, all things considered. If you're not familiar with PocketBase, one of its great things is that it gives you an instance of an admin interface that you can access and add content to your app, to your API. It also gives you an API that your frontend could query and then get all the data that you have here. So a very common solution is, I guess, if you are a solopreneur, then you use this to manage your content, fair enough. But very often you have a client, they are like, oh, I have this limited set of things that I want to sell, or I have a coffee shop and every week I bring in different beans or whatever. And instead of telling you to update what beans they have or having to do a code deployment, which never happens because your clients are not technical, then you give them this admin interface that does everything that they want. So in this case, I guess, let's say that there is a person who is fed up with like Instagram and TikTok and all of that. Maybe they are too old for TikTok or whatever to keep up with what the kids are doing. So they want, let's say, SEO friendly, more permanent way, not as ephemeral as TikTok and the other socials way, to collect their travels and pictures. Which I actually did find handy when I did visit Seoul and South Korea in general. There is a great blogger that goes in various places around the world and then has guides. Like, if you do this hike, then follow this was good, this wasn't as good, this was tiring. Anyway, there is value in the old school internet. I don't know if people will be looking for you to build something like that, but maybe your cafeteria does want something where, listen, every week or every month, I want to update the menu, and you can't really be bothered to do it for them. You want to deliver the project, and give them a CRM or CMS interface where they can do the further updates themselves. That's the dream. That's going to increase the price of the project, but it doesn't have to increase how much time you spend as it stands now, because PocketBase, this new popular tool has come up that gives you this UI, admin UI, for free, and it's quite powerful. It has lots of features, including the what you see is what you get editor here, no markdown. But it also handles images and thumbnails decently well, and that's what we'll be focusing on today. So all of this to say, let's add some images using the UI interface. So when PocketBase starts, it has no other collections other than the user collection for auth, and we have created a travels collection for this specific project. So I made all of this up. I've decided the schema, I did the architecture. I said, it's travel should have a title, it should have a slug, so we can have nice readable links, SEO friendly maybe, links that people can go to. It should have a country, because maybe we want to do like a cool feature where we pin things on a map. It should have the content, which would be the longer section. I didn't write too much for this demo project, but of course the word is your oyster. You can write quite a lot. It will have a snippet to show when we're on the list view, not the detail here. And what else? It is going to have the date that the travel happened, and we'll just say the month, because sometimes you're like for a few days in a place. What happens if it crosses over 2 months? So that's something that you'll find out if you're working with a real client. They're like, oh, you know, this was June and July. What do? Do you need a travel from and travel then, and then you need to do a migration? I guess you do. It also has a hero image, so I have worked with images for this demo, and we'll talk about it more, but we'll talk about the similar multiple image field, which is actually just an image field, is what they call them. So if I were to add a new field, anytime I can do this locally, and it will generate a migration, which I could push to production. That's maybe another video. But a file field, which can have a few settings, including whether it's going to be just a single file or a multiple file. And if you actually want it to be only an image field, then you can pick a few allowed MIME types. So you can just search for image, for example, and then allow some of the ones you want. And if you are a bit more concerned about what type of images your client is going to be uploading, then you can just allow like the popular ones. So make sure they don't get one from a photographer and you upload like a huge TIFF file. Although you can also specify the max file size that they can upload here. And the thumb sizes we're going to talk about later. By default, they do have the 100, I guess, thumb that they use for the little thumbnail preview here. But we're going to override the instruction there to further optimize the image uploads, because your client, let's face it, they'll just take a picture on their phone and upload it up there and then expect everything to be perfect. But in reality, that will mean that they are uploading 5 megabyte images, and you don't want your users, the people going in here, to get an image carousel with like 10 images, 5 megabytes each, like 50 megabytes. That's not going to be great. Anything else about the schema here? Let's see. So I've already set up the carousel image field. I've accepted quite a few, including the Hake image format, which is what the iPhone spits out, saves by default. I think it's Apple proprietary format, but you know, that's too much detail unless you're a photography nerd. And you can set up how many they can actually put in this dropdown. All fine and dandy. I do suspect if you do allow hike, then there is a higher chance if they're trying to upload things from their phone, they'll try to upload the max iPhone, the max picture size, like raw from the iPhone, and that's going to be too big. So have a decent max file size here, because storage isn't free either, even if you use thumbnails in the end. So if you disallow this and make it be JPEG, then they'd kind of know to select a smaller version. And that's about it for this field. All this means is that because I've done the settings part, hello account wizard India, nice to see you today, and great suggestion in the comments as well. So images today, let's say that me, the engineer, has defined what the travel collection looks like. I've already added the carousel field, and today we're gonna be filling this carousel field and consuming it. So if I go in Finder, I do have 10 images here that I can just drag and drop. I think one of them is the one I used for the hero, so I'm not going to use that one. And look at that, drag and drop upload just works. What if I also want to order them? They don't have like a nice handle on the left, so maybe like not the best UI, but still really good UI. You can click it and reorder the files that you have in here. So that's quite neat. That's something that if I was doing live streams about, I would need like hours and hours to do. And with PocketBase, you get it, you know, for free, which is super exciting. like your special sauce when you are delivering a project. It's not really going to be the admin UI. People are kind of used to like WordPress quality at best admin UIs. So I think this covers it quite nicely. More than nicely. So we have these images. We can save the changes. And then we even have the image previews coming in here. So we know that we filled that one, and maybe for the last demo, we can fill another one in the end. And that's about it. The other cool thing with PocketBase is that they give you like an API preview. So what we're doing is when we are in the main page, we are hitting the list view for the travel collection, and they give you a few examples of what you get back, how do you sort them, how do you expand some fields if they're JSON, how you can only select some fields. But as it happens for the detail view as well, we're not using the view endpoint, which takes an ID. It takes a slug, in our case, has to be readable. So what we are using is, again, the list search view, and we're searching for a specific slug, and we'll go to the code and show that. So the question is, can we rename the images? Which is a good question, actually. And I think the answer is no. I think they create like a different name here, unfortunately. So no matter what you name them, I don't think that name appears anyway. It's gonna be like a unique name. I don't think. Let's see. They did keep like they do keep the name and then just keep adding to the file. So that's interesting. Yeah, I can't see anything to rename the images there, which would be a cool feature. Like even if you're not using the file name, I would love for each image to have an alt, for example. Alt is important, and if they're missing that, that's actually a bit of a breaker. And let's see, even on the single image file upload, there is nothing there. Interesting. So yeah, I should definitely look into this. PocketBase still in 0.20 something really, so not in official general availability. So I'm sure if you raise that, or if I raise that, something can happen, because that's definitely gonna be important. But let's see, what are we getting back? So in the code, in the routes, travels, slug plus page or server.ts. So I went with my classic server-side data fetch in here, even though we saw quite a few methods to do it. This is my favorite, so I did it like this. And I have a find by slug method. So our PocketBase implementation, and I'm working with interfaces because maybe at some point we're like, enough with PocketBase, it doesn't scale like horizontally, like we have like 1 million users to our blog and we need something else. In that case, what you want is better caching. But let's say that your database is the bottleneck that you found, then you can more easily switch to like Supabase or like Turso or something else. So if we go to our PocketBase travels repo, you'll see that we have the find by slug method, and we're still using the collection to get a list of items, but we only get the first list item. I guess they identify that very often you will want to get things by slugs because people will be using them for blogs or blog folios like this. So they give you a handy way to search for something and get the first result. And I'm using the filter method that the PocketBase client has, which is all about prepared statements and guarding against code injection, SQL injection. So in real life, the user would never be able to give me a slug, but in actuality, by real life, I mean when you click around the app legitimately, then it's always the app that decides, oh, you're going to this slug or you're going to that slug. But in theory, you could be going to something that the user has typed. So if this were unescaped, you could do like a drop table travel, and then this is getting escaped. So not quite what is gonna work, but the idea is with the SQL injection that instead of something legitimate, you are passing in something that will cause the server-side code to execute naively a statement that is gonna drop all tables, that's gonna cause chaos. But you get around that by using prepared statements or similar tricks. In this case, they call PocketBase has what they call a filter method, where you can name a variable here. This is kind of like how you do it in the regular SQL as well, and then actually pass in the value of that variable. So in the SQL, you'd see that slug equals something that I'm gonna give you later, and what I'm gonna give you later is gonna be this. That will mean that anything that's the value, anything that's the slug, it's not going to be evaluated as a regular SQL statement that you can just, stop the previous one and then drop the table. It's going to be evaluated as a string. Pretty much that's what this means. So we get the one PocketBase travel, and then we map it to what our UI considers a PocketBase travel or a travel item. An actual travel item using this method here, just camel case in travel that really, but also defining the file URLs for the hero image, which is likely what we'll need to do for the carousel images as well. So if we go now to this one, we go to the UI for Slack page. I am injecting, treating as raw HTML everything that they have on the content field. So that's what you see is what you get editor field, which spits out stuff like p paragraphs, for example, or strong tags. Like this one would be a better example of what we're getting. So by default, SvelteKit would be escaping p tags and stroke tags and all of that to disallow users being naughty once again. But now I trust that my own client doesn't want to hack their own site. But then again, that's how you get problems. Like someone tells your client, "Oh, paste in this," and you'll get like 1 million likes, and then it's actually a script that evaluates. Anyway, that's by the by. What we need is like implement. You do put carousel here, which is going to be at the end, and then GitHub Copilot is kind of close. Travel.gallery is not a thing, but SvelteKit knows this. But it doesn't know that we have a carousel because I do need to update the types. So in my travel interface, I need to say that actually I have a carousel that's a string array, kind of like the hero. And interestingly enough, my PocketBase travel repo is happy because I am using a typed PocketBase here. So I'm using a little library called PocketBase TypeGen to do some TypeScript type generation automatically. I point it to my local PB data, and then it generates for me a PocketBase types file, which is full of PocketBase types. It knows what my records look like, and therefore it knows that the travels record has a carousel field. Sometimes that there is a string array. So maybe I should do an if here. If this entry does have a carousel, then we want to enter it, and instead of rendering like the image like this, so even this one is expecting that this would have like a so the alternate So this one knows that this is just the strings, that image is probably going to be the image source. But it is giving the same alt title to all of them, which is not good. Like for accessibility, it's not good. But I guess to pass some checks and get like government funds, sometimes you need to give an alt title even though it's the same one. So I guess it can be helpful in some things. So I can try to render the sources here, but it's not gonna quite work and render an image here. And the alt, you can see the problem that when the images don't work, you just see the same thing again and again, which is not good. So let's try like something else. Is that any better? Probably not. What you need is what you said in the comments as well. This would need to have a proper type title. This is exactly the reason why you would want each image to have its own item. And in fact, like we can't even get the image file name, really, like the original file name. We have the one that PocketBase has generated for us. Anyway, let's see what this source looks like. And what it looks like is it just has the file name, I suppose, as it was stored in PocketBase. So immediately I'm thinking, if I had named the file while I uploaded something else, then I would be able to use this as the alt property for the image. But PocketBase is adding like a suffix to everything I upload, like a unique identifier, I suppose, an ID here in the end. So would I strip the ending and the file format and then use the rest? I don't know. That's too much thinking on my part. And if my client messes it up and they don't use the file name format that they have, then I can't use it. Yeah, it's kind of tricky. Like there should just be something where you could have the option to specify the alt name for the image. But you can see how now it's quite simple because it just gives you the name of the image, and then we'll use this to derive what the full URL is. So you're just dealing with an array of strings. That's fine. If you get a refactor here, it would be a breaking change, because instead of an array of strings, you'd be getting an array of objects, which will have like a string source property, and then an alt or title property. So that would actually be a big refactor. I wonder how they will handle it. Anyway, so what we have is the name of this image, of each one of these files. How do we get to the source image? PocketBase does have a helper method to do this, but let's have a look at their docs as well. Give me this one, files here. So every file has this format. This is your PocketBase server, API server. So locally, I am also running it on localhost 8090. And then where the API is exposed, it has a files directory, which takes the collection ID or name, so travels in this case, and then the record ID, which I guess is what you see here. The record ID would be this. So the travels record is this, and then it's the file ID, which is this. So that's how you would construct this manually, and we'll see about that in the thumbnail properties afterwards. But thankfully, PocketBase does have a helper method to do this without us worrying about it too much. So in the PocketBase travels repo here, we can actually say that get out the carousel, and the carousel is going to be a carousel map the file ID. Do they call it file ID? File name. Yeah, so let's call it file name here. Let's call it file name. What do they call it? Yeah, they call it file name here. Cool. So the PocketBase client has a get file URL method which takes the collection, which takes a record, takes an object, which I guess PocketBase internally uses it to figure out what its ID is. So even if you just gave the ID of the travel thing, it would just be fine. Then the file name, and behind the scenes, I assume it does something where it figures out where it's deployed to, and then uses that travel record ID, that travels collection ID, and then the travel item ID, and then the file name to construct a path like this for you, so you don't have to worry about it. And if they change how this works, then you can be sure that they will change this helper method as well. So if we do this and we save, I think the images should just appear for us, and indeed they do. Awesome. Cool. So I guess we were in like that part for a little bit of time, and that's the first part of what we're doing today. You can see that it doesn't look like too great. I guess they look nice, but like, would a user like scroll all the way down, keep scrolling to see all the pictures? Maybe they would, but it's more fun to do a carousel, so that's what we're gonna do. So maybe we can extract this into its own component. Carousel svelte. And maybe it's just gonna take carousel sources, image sources, maybe images. This is going to be a string array. And we want to get them out, get those images out from the props. And in our page here, if we do have carousel images, then render the carousel component. And capacity images, which are going to be these things. So it's going to look the same, but we are indeed using this carousel component, which doesn't have a carousel yet. So that's what we're going to do. That's what we're gonna do. So done. And that's the next step. We're gonna bring in shadcn-svelte. It's been hot and humid all the week. In most parts of the world, I hear. Maybe not in the north. But let's see something more refreshing, which is always the shadcn UI. This is the carousel that we're gonna bring in. It has a few options on how many items it should be appearing, like whether you want the arrows or not. Autoplay options like vertical carousel, all cool things. Number of slides, lots of different examples, and it's all based without much change to this great carousel component, Embla Carousel, which does have like React implementations. Back in my day when I did my magnetic carousel video, I don't think this existed, or I definitely didn't know about it, but I've checked it out now and it does look quite cool. So it is wrapping this one behind the scenes shadcn. That's a great pro with shadcn, actually, that even if you don't like how it looks, how shadcn looks in like various themes or colors or whatever, then you can still use it for specific components, or you can still use it for inspiration of what you should use for your own custom thing. So lots of the components have a primitive API reference, which is this, that, oh, we're actually using Embla Carousel behind the scenes. So it does give you access to some good and battle tested tools to solve quite a few of these things. So the command palette one, I really like. I think I preferred it. I prefer it in the non-shadcn svelte mode, actually, than this one. So keep that in mind with shadcn-svelte. Even if you don't use shadcn a lot or at all, you can still go there and take some inspiration on what type of components they have, and which have a sneak peek into what libraries they're using behind the scenes. Cool. Enough chatter about that. Let's bring in the carousel. Apparently all we need is to, guess we're using ban for this one, to ban added. So on the terminal, I'll go to my apps web app. This is a monorepo that also deploys the PocketBase and has a Docker image that we can run locally as well, which is what I'm running now. I think I'll make a video on that. Let me know if you think that's interesting. I don't want to overwrite your my button with your button because I like my button more. So let me decide individually. Yes. Override the button? No. So override nothing is the option that I wanted, really. Okay, fair enough. Let's see what this brought us. So in the UI directory, source lib components UI, which is where shadcn puts stuff, we have a new carousel component, index file, great. Context, it put things in context. Wow, I guess there are many components that may need to know what the current item is, what the next item is. So that's why we need context for this. Interesting. And it's like a lot of Svelte for actually. And it's also using Svelte Radix, which I'm not using. So let's see how we'll get around that. Ah, and it has the dependency on this, which it did not add. So let's manually add it. Embla Carousel. That should be fine. Get the context. Save this. Load window. Let's do force TypeScript to maybe have a look here. Get this from the utils, great. We can change this into a Svelte 5 component. We can say that actually have the type props, which are these guys. And we can say that let class name, not $, props copilot, that's a different thing. Svelte 5 does it like this. So no realize in the class name here, and then we get stuff from the Embla context all the same. And we use this all the same, and it's all well and good, but we also need the children. So instead of slots, which we had in Svelte 4 and below, we have children now. So suddenly this needs to be children, which is a Svelte thing. It's going to have all these HTML attributes. Go to type this. Oops. Well, Copilot forgot to type this, but hey. And instead of doing the slot here, we will do at render children. And instead of spreading the $$ rest props, which is not anything in Svelte 5, we'll be spreading these rest props. And I think we're golden. I think this part of the carousel has been Svelte 5'd. The carousel item, let's do the same thing. So now it could be faster because I can just copy this and copy this. So instead of doing all of these things, I can just paste them. Rest props, render children. And I think that's all this needs. No need for suffixes, especially when actually we're doing TypeScript. This guy, the arrow right guy, I see no TypeScript underlines, which is worrying me a bit, actually. Without IntelliSense, like what are we even doing? But prettier is still working, so that's always a good sign. Reload. Right, anyway, bring this button from wherever this is, remove these prefixes. So arrow right is not a thing. Let's see what type of icon do we have. Lib. Components, icons. I think we have the caret right, chevron right. Maybe we can use that one. Sure. And here, so this is going to be slightly more complicated. Props is going to be button props. Looks like. And we also have a couple more properties here for variant and size, which are default to different things. So here where we are destructuring the props, we can say that the variant defaults to outline, size defaults to icon this time. Makes sense? Rest props would be rest props, and the click events are just on click and on key down, interestingly enough. In Svelte 5, they're not like simulated events, they're like how HTML expects it, which is neat. But it does mean that you can't do the prevent default right here. But that's fine. The more it looks like regular HTML, the better. More copy-pastable across use cases. All right, so that's the carousel next. And I suspect that we'll have a very similar job for carousel previous. So let's copy all of that. Plonk. Oh, and it doesn't even have slots, actually. So we don't need to annotate children here. Not children needed. It is just bottom props. Sure. Sure. Yeah, so I guess let's just use these ones. They were right. Handapite was right once again. And the carousel itself, all right, so this has like 1 million stores and it is using the like derive old school Svelte 4 thing and below. So I'm not going to touch this one. That feels like something that I should validate. What we brought already works. And then tempt fate. Cool. So how are they using it? Just in this simple use case. Do you have another subtype for this? Yeah, right in our carousel. So we've svelte 5ified quite a lot of the carousel. Let's see if we can use it. Carousel. Too many carousel things. Let's import it in this component where we want to use it. We want to use it here in the end. You don't need to explicitly import an index file. Node will look at this. Oh, good. Something I've messed up. So one of the problems is that this doesn't exist. Severon left, let's say. And left variant. Oh, forgot to delete these guys. Whoops. And next, yeah, these guys. They're not here. All right. So let's kick this a bit further down the road. So maybe now we've correctly svelte-fified quite a few things here. Too many meaningless things that I do care about. Anyway, in our carousel component that we collocate with our travels slug detail page here, we want to use the carousel we just made that we brought in from shadcn, all the carousel files. And what shadcn is saying is have a carousel root, I guess, and then it's just having like an each for array they just make here. Oh, can we just do this now? Looks neat. Okay, so what I actually want to do is an each related to the props that I have. So like this. So let's say that this doesn't happen. Oh, they are also keying it by the index, interestingly enough. And fair enough, we can do the same. We can index it by the source because they'll all have like the same source. They'll all have a different source. That feels better. Not sure. So eat this one eats and eat that eats, because what we want to happen is for each one of these images, we don't want to render an image. We want to render a carousel item that has some content. But the content is going to be the image. So let's bring that image back. So it's going to be here. The content is going to be this. And I don't know if this is... they're doing like an aspect ratio thing as well. Let's remove it and see how that looks like. Fail. A card is not defined. We should have brought in cards too. So you also need the card component. Whoops. Success. All right, nice, swipeable, and you can see that it's magnetic because if you don't go enough of the way, then it goes back. Cool. I guess we don't want like this card root actually. Craziness. Do we even want this div? maybe yes, maybe no. So you can see that this tries to be full size, but has like a max size here, limited by this. But now it can get proper huge. So maybe, hello Lucas, thank you very much. What a sweet comment. The comment is, bro, you're doing a great job. Keep going. I love it. That's amazing. And you're saying you're really crossing it in a nice white heart. I really appreciate it, Lucas. Thank you. Right when the design wasn't looking good, I'm getting a second wind because of this. So if we give it a max W pros here, maybe this becomes more reasonable. And if we do MX Auto, then that should align it in the middle. And it seems like the arrows, oh, they're also doing like the bouncy thing because I've added the bouncy thing. I don't think Hantabyte approves of this design. Oh well. And also it kind of broke. Accessible, nice. Keyboard navigation too. So if I've clicked here, keyboard navigation does nothing. But if I'm selecting the arrow and it does something, like I'm pressing right, left on my keyboard, which is very nice. And if I press spacebar, it actually hits the button as well, the carousel button. So that's very nice. So those are things, accessibility things that in my video with magnetic carousel with Tailwind, we didn't get into those things. It was just, you know, you hover with your mouse and or your finger on your phone, and then it will do like this trick. But of course, for accessibility, there are so many concerns where using a library like this is gonna give you an advantage because they've thought of this. People have, even if they didn't think of it initially, people were like, oh, shouldn't this be more easily keyboard navigatable? So I'm pressing left, that's why it's going towards the left. So cool, that looks right to me. I was thinking if I was to do something, I've manually done this effect. I've exported this picture in Lightroom, which I took. And then in Procreate, of all places, I've added this blurred background of the same picture, which I think looks nice. And all of this is to do like the popular Instagram crop. So I don't know if I'll regret this decision in the future that I'm taking all my pictures like this. But hey. Anyway, I was thinking that we could be detecting the aspect ratio of the picture and then having the same picture in the background to like cover and use a blur filter. So your client will not need to do this. So sometimes the click event doesn't quite work. But what I was saying was your client just wants to upload pictures in any aspect ratio. But if you want to respect a specific aspect ratio, maybe you can automatically like render the same image twice and apply a blur on this one. And because the image source is going to be the same, it's not going to be twice the work for the client when it comes to download the image. It will download it once and reuse it. So that could be cool. That's something we can do in the future. But until then, let's give this like a rounded class, like everything. It also disappears every time I need to refresh every time I change something. It's maybe not ideal. But I think that's it. These images in real life will be much bigger than what we need. I'll say this again. So the image we're bringing in is 1,000 plus. Like the width is 2048 pixels, but it's getting rendered only at 812 pixels. So there is a lot of performance gain to be had by this, by making sure we're using the best image size possible, like as big as we need. So yeah, I think that was the next part. Wow, planned. So, carousel rendered. Let's have a look at the localhost once again. You'll see that this one in the end has a carousel. You can play around with it. This one that doesn't have any images, no carousel. Oh, what's this? I thought we said no carousel. I thought we said no carousel. How does this happen? In here, does it always have a carousel array? I guess so. All right, so now this disappears. So it feels like, even though this is not required, you can see the classic star of an admin interface or like a form where it will stop you if you haven't filled the here image, because I've defined that some should be non-empty and some can be empty, like the carousel. But it looks like for the carousel specifically, because it's a multiple file allowed input, even though in the UI it says this is not available, and I was expecting this to be falsy, it actually is an empty array of things. But it's because we are mapping it. It's because of GitHub Copilot. So I'm making things up here. So it's here. They're doing like the null thingy. Like, come on. Or empty array. Who asked you to do this, Copilot? I'm disappointed. I expect nothing, and yet I'm still disappointed. So this works just fine, and we should find that... Ah, no. It's not Copilot. Okay, Copilot. You survive this time. So it feels like this is an array of strings anyway. Okay, so... No matter what, the automatic typing tool is saying that maybe the carousel will be nothing. Which is fair enough. But in reality, sometimes it's an empty array of, should be strings, but it has nothing. That's an empty array. Fair enough, I guess. Interface here. Sometimes this is there. Let's say again. Type things correctly. That's why as a human, I don't want to type things. I want everything to be type sent for me. Anyway, in this case, if this is truthy and has length, only then render the carousel section. And in this instance where we don't have any images, we render nothing. In this instance where we do have images, we render something, which should always be just about big enough for this. But one last thing. The previous and the next, which is using like the button that I've made that has like the bouncy transform. Because I think every good button should have bounciness. Like you can see, like this jumps up a bit. I think that's very satisfying, especially if it's like the sign up, like convert button. Like they should be bouncing up. Like most buttons, happy buttons, like should be bouncing up. But this one, for the carousel specifically, probably not, and it's kind of flipping out as well. So I will need to have a look at what I've defined here. There must be like some transform. I'll never find it. Active. Yeah, so there is like this translate. Which I would like to override, please. I'll actually override it. actually override it anywhere again. Ah, for a header thing. It's on the same track. So maybe this will work actually. Maybe not. Where did I attempt to do this? Ah, for this. So for the button theme toggle, it's not bouncing. So there must be something going on here. There must be something going on. Ah, they have these guys. They have another translate here that's getting applied and messing things up. Let's see. All right, so maybe these need like the active variables too. I guess. All of these you won't need to do. It's just me doing a cute thing with my button. But I think you should be doing a cute thing with your button, to be fair. Ah, all right, fixed. Good, good. Good. So I guess what they're doing here is rotating the buttons according to the orientation. If we were doing the vertical orientation, so the arrows, instead of having different arrows according to the orientation, they're just rotating the carré like 90 degrees. This is what this translate is doing, and it was conflicting with the thing I'm having buttons do regularly, which is like bounce a little bit. Right, so now we know what to copy for the next button too. And it's this, I guess. All right, disaster averted. And since we're here, is this where we give it like orientation vertical, just to check it out? Yeah, so you can see we have like the little button there. Not quite working in vertical mode, interestingly enough. Interestingly enough. Whoops. Oh well, let's fix the horizontal one and then I'll have a look at the vertical one. So actually what we did here was like style kicks and buttons. And it's only now that we're getting it there. Cool. Recap complete. If we do have a carousel of images, then we're under it. If we don't, we're under nothing. And our situation now is that we have this carousel of images, but the images are bigger than that we're serving, are much bigger than the ones that we need. So this one is like 2.5 times bigger than the one we need, or maybe 1 and a bit, because we are already in a display, to be honest. But if they are like on an even smaller device, then that's even less than what ideally you'd want. So on a small device, let's say this one, iPhone 14 Pro Max, which is pretty big already, we have this size, which is maximum width 387, and what we get is 16, so even double that. For Retina displays, it's more than double the image size that they need. which isn't great. You don't want to make your user download more data than they absolutely have to. You could also, if this is below default, you could also have like a watcher to only bring in the carousel items and render them if they are scrolling down. Like lazy load this later. That'd be another performance thing. But an easy way to make this more performant is take the worst case, like how big can this image get? And in this case, it is going to be on the larger desktop. With this, that's not always the case according to your design. But in my case, it is. So the render size is 655. Therefore, I do want to make thumbnails like that. 655 times 819. So make thumbnails for the biggest possible case, because probably your clients will be uploading the biggest file that they have, the largest size that they have, and that's going to be a waste for people to download because they'll only see it in smaller formats. The biggest case is going to be 655. So let's take care to create a thumbnail for exactly that size. I wonder, is this like the, so 4:5 ratio is 0.8 exactly. 655 to 819. It's not what I expected. It's 826, 820. Yeah. So let's say that this is the actual size that we want. That's gonna respect the 4:5 aspect ratio nicely. So PocketBase has a way to specify what type of thumbnails can be generated. In order to not abuse people, just add in like a thumb equals whatever size that they want. What you need to do is go to your collections, and on the relevant field, I'm like, okay, for this carousel, I only render it in screens like this. The worst use case is that they are 656, 820. So in here, I can specify that I want the 656 wide times, not times, x 820 height. And that will allow me to do thumbnails for, will make PocketBase accept an instruction to give me a thumbnail of this size. So let me just, should I save this quickly? The idea is that here, instead of just passing in the source, then I would be passing in the source plus a thumb variety. Let's have a look. So let's say we have this image. We have this gigantic image you can see nicely. At the end, if you add the query parameter for thumb, you can specify width, height, or just a width, or just a height. There are like a few options that PocketBase accepts. But ideally, we'd want to specify 656 to 820, because we figured that this is the biggest size our users would be able to see it at. However, this will do nothing because we haven't said to PocketBase that they should accept this thumbnail size. So you need to go to the interface to actually specify which widths and heights are accepted to be used in this way. And that's, I can only assume, for security reasons, because you don't want users to just keep up using this and get any thumbnail that they want. They'd be uploading their own images and then resizing them and all of that. But if we were to do that, then we'd find that it would look a bit muddy on my screen. So on this screen or my phone screen, which are Retina displays 2x, or even if they're like Samsung Galaxies with like 3x, 4x, what you actually need is double the resolution because of the DPI, because of the dots per inch there. So I want two sets of thumbs. This and double this, and just to avoid embarrassing myself, I'll just use the calculator here, 1312. I can do it. I have a medal in maths for crying out loud. So, what else? That's it. So the moment I do this and save, that should make PocketBase accept this resizing. So you see, I didn't do anything other than rerun this URL with the thumb get parameter, and then PocketBase did resize this. It is doing a bit of work behind the scenes actually. So it is creating a version of this image at this side and puts it in the disk. So people could be attacking your website, I guess. You could get hacked because of this. So if people were able to create to do any possible permutation of thumbnail size, they could easily write a bot that requests random resolutions here and overwhelm your disk space, for example. People sometimes are malicious like that. So that's why this happens. Anyway, once you've specified this here, how do you actually use them? So you'll see we have this. Everything will still be at the biggest size possible because this has no thumb parameter. And I would like to create like a new component for this, like a specific optimized carousel image, because it's going to be slightly complicated. Slightly. Not much. And it's going to be rendering this, really. We can have a script. We can say that the prompts, HTML image attributes, is that how you use this? Because there is also like the HTML element, HTML attributes, HTML whatever div element that we've used before, but I guess they have a handy thing for this. Anyway, cool. Let's get the source and the rest props out. Okay, now typed correctly. Spread the props, use the source as is, and have the carousel every time use the carousel optimized image. What did they even call it? Optimized carousel. Optimized carousel image. And give it the source and give it whatever alt title we had before actually. So just use the optimized image here. Oh, interesting. This is rest props, not props. For one. Yeah, that's it. I'm not sure why this have the red bracket here. Still works, still is bigger than we need. One thing we could do, as we saw, is say that the source is actually the given source, but we know we can append a thumb of this size, and then it will actually use smaller images. So now in the stream, let's see, is this actually the case? You will be able to see, like I'm not sure in the stream if you will be able to see, but you'll have to trust me that the quality here is not as good. It is a bit blurry, because I am on a retina display, so we are losing resolution here. So this is smaller than what we need. So what we need to do is specify a bigger size in case you are in a retina display, in a display with a bigger pixel density. And we've done this before with the pixel element, but in this case we can just use the image element itself, no pixel element with sources and images, just an image element that will have a source like before, like the original source, and a source set that will have two different things. And I guess to not overcomplicate this late, it can have the sources before, but it can also have a source set which is well supported in this day and age. The source set is gonna say, give me this thumb, or source sent, give me this thumb, or give me the double the size thumb. Which is, what did we put here? This one. If you are on a 2x display. So this is the important one. And the moment I do this, you should again see that I'm getting crisp images. So now this one knows that I'm on a retina display, so it should be requesting the biggest ones. So the intrinsic size is this, which is enough to satisfy something that is rendered in half the size because the pixel density is double. Hopefully I've managed to explain this well enough. And that has definitely achieved that no matter what my client uploads, then we do have the best versions of the pictures for our user, the most performant optimized things. They are as crisp as they can be when they look at them, even on the lowest device. You could make this even more complicated. You could say that if the whole viewport is smaller, if you are like on a portrait device or whatever, then give smaller images. That would be a good idea, because when you are on a display like this, it's even smaller and have even more thumbs. So have the mobile thumb, the mobile retina thumb, and then the desktop thumb and the desktop retina thumb. But this is just an example of what you could do. And I think this helps because sometimes you're overwhelmed with what you can do for performance and accessibility, so you do nothing. You're paralyzed by choice. Not quite analysis paralysis, but like overwhelmed, like too many things that I need to do to make my site performant. I think this is very reasonable. You have a huge, potentially huge uploaded file by your client. You should be specifying 2 thumbs. Like all I'm asking for is 2 thumbs. Check what the biggest possible size is of where this image can be rendered, and do that as 1 thumb, and 2x for retina displays. And then you're good enough in my book. You can do more, but that's a great starting point. If you leave it at that, no one will notice for sure. If you get at a point where they're asking, you know, well, we need more performance and core web vitals and all of that, then you can look into it deeper. But until then, I think you're good to go. Cool. I think that's it. This should have also created migration if my calculations are correct. So we've updated the travels to have like 2 thumbnail sizes for the carousel, which is neat. Again, I am thinking of creating a video on working locally with PocketBase and then deploying PocketBase and all of that. Let me know if that's interesting to you. But that's by the by. When I commit this, all of these will be automatically deployed and it's just gonna work in real life perfectly. Right, so that's it. Let's rumble a little bit more. Now everyone loves that. So we've mentioned that we've done enough to have like a pretty performant web app. We're showing the images, they look crisp, they look nice. We could only be rendering them when they get into the viewport, only requesting and rendering them. Then we could have like some skeleton loading UI as well. But that's, you know, something to be considered. We did create the thumbnails, like we did do 2 thumbnails for the biggest possible widths they should be, which are still smaller than what our client is likely to upload. And we said that you could even do more thumbnail sizes according to the screen sizes, because this is well responsive. But the other thing is, people kind of know nowadays that the most performant image formats on the web are webp and avif, not regular JPEGs and PNGs. And as it stands, PocketBase doesn't have anything to do any conversions automatically. So if you upload PNG, you're gonna get PNG. If you upload avif, you're actually gonna get avif, but no client is gonna upload avif for you. That's a bit too much to ask. But PocketBase does have this thing that they call hooks. So anytime you upload a record, you could be running SARP or something like that. You could be going through another service to create an image to actually upload. So don't to overwrite the uploaded image with the one that's already resized and webp and whatnot. But then the problem is that what if the user doesn't support avif, which is still likely? What if they don't support webp, which is not as likely, but still may happen, and it's a bit too complicated for my taste. I think that's the point where I would be bringing in a different service like Image Proxy to actually run my images through them. But again, I think get your client to upload JPEGs and use the thumbnails, and that should be good enough as a first stage. Then if there is a lot of value in what they're doing and the website, then you can look into Image Proxy, getting a subscription there, or deploying your own Image Proxy. Actually, if you're on a monorepo, you can do that relatively easily and cheaper for sure. So these are, and then we would be using the picture element for sure. So now what we've done, our optimized carousel element, it's just a regular image element. It has the source that you know from like 20-30 years ago of HTML, but also the more modern source set here that is doing the trick, where it's like use the smaller one, or if you're on Retina display, use the bigger one. Hello Mike in the chat, nice to see you once again. Hope you're having an amazing day. Right, so in this one, we'll only talk about webp and avif. These are indeed the most performant formats for images, like 99.9% of the time, but PocketBase doesn't have an easy way to work with them. So let me know if you'd like to see a stream or something where we do investigate how you can do this, but I think it's not as important for now. I think these are very actionable steps with the thumbnails that you can do, and the images will be good enough. Cool. You're facing a runes problem. Well, as I've heard say, like may the worst problems in your life be problems with runes and svelte. I think that'd be beautiful. And runes can be confusing for sure, so I get you. Autoplay, should we try that? Are there any cool examples here that they have? I guess they're showing more. That's another way to like trick performance, is like make the thumbnails even smaller, make the people not want to see bigger images, like convince your client to show smaller images. It's a design thing. Ah, and all they're doing is let's look at how that carousel works actually. I haven't looked at it enough. So in the carousel content, you can put anything here. If you had a if you had a title, you could put it here. Like each slide is one item. So if you wanted 3 images, you could slice this into chunks. You can chunkify this. So should we show that? Let's see if Copilot will do it. I think it's going to be a reduce, but let's see. It talks too much as if it's like a junior engineer once again. It's like, oh, I know this is Svelte, so let me talk about Svelte. This may sound better. Yeah, I'm afraid that it would be like a decent amount of code, so I'm not gonna do it. But just to quickly show the effect here, I guess. Let's say it's this. Oh, interesting. It also has the flex basis thing that they want. Basis wants to. Sure. Not really. Oh, it's different items. Come on, Sony. These guys. So we need 2 of these. One like this. One like this. All right, so just to show, like, if you want like bigger carousel images, and of course, like the same image appears again and again just because of hacked it together instead of doing it properly. Mike is asking if that's me in the picture, and the answer is yes. That's actually me and my wife. The best picture ever is from people that will never meet again. It is fun. Yeah, so if you want multiple carousels here, and it always kind of focuses on the middle one, I suppose. Have a very wonderful life. So be conscious of social media as well. You're seeing like a glimpse of my life. We did have a wonderful time in Korea, but that doesn't mean that every day I'm strolling in the park, meditating, and dressing up in traditional clothing. But I do like my life, that's true. Right, so yeah, just demoing the multiple images in the carousel, and you switch around all of them. According to the viewport width, maybe you could do like something different here. But yeah, just wanted to show this quickly in real life, especially since we have the arrows, so people will know that it's more than one. Then I do think I want to keep it as the big one. Why? Maybe I want to. Anyway, I'll think about it offline. So now what did we do? We actually did multiple items per slide, Great. Autoplay, let's have a look at that one. But it's one of the reasons actually that I want to get people into software engineering and web dev. I think like throughout my life I've been thinking about this. But even before COVID and everyone went more into flexibility and working from home, I think software engineering and web dev in particular is great in regards the three keys of job satisfaction and life satisfaction, which is salary, flexibility, and feeling of importance, impact. So I think you get to work in very cool projects. I think you are paid quite a lot without crunching. Like if you were in game dev, you'd be crunching all day, even though you'd feel like you're doing something cool, delivering like a cool video game or something. And it has a lot of flexibility to be able to work around the world. So Embla Autoplay is the question. It's the thing that we're going to be using now indeed. So let's demo how that would work. So we're saying that, oh, if we had two slides, then the users would know that there is actually more images for them to look at. Well, now maybe they won't know, they will miss. So maybe what we want is to autoplay. So let's use that one. Apparently you can pass in quite a lot of plugins. Again, this shadcn component is based on a primitive, different library called Embla Carousel. So you can have a look at all the plugins that they have here. But the one that most people talk about is the autoplay. And on the root, I guess we need to add the plugins and give the autoplay here, and then specify a few options, whether we need this plugin. If you want to use this plugin, you need to bring it in. You need to bring it in. So ban add d dev dependency autoplay. Great. And Mike says, when you were a kid, you dreamed to make games. Oh, believe me, I know the feeling. There is no Svelte expert in game dev right now. Yeah, it's hard to transition into game dev, but I think at some point I decided that maybe it's best to keep doing web dev, and the better you get at something, the more you enjoy it as well. And leave games for my free time. But I am sure that we will do a month where we're trying to make put a game together with Godot or something like that. Unfortunately, Unreal Engine doesn't run good enough on my Mac, so I wouldn't be able to do that. But Godot runs great. So we've done this. It just keeps going in order to go to the start. Then it seems like it goes the long way, it doesn't overlap. That footer theme in my video, was it the game I made? Which one? Not sure. So yeah, it goes in the end. Like if I interact, does it stop? Does it go in the beginning? So if you do nothing, it moves. If you do something, it never does it again. You're seeing an RPG in my footer. Where? Here? RPG characters, maybe. Ah, right. So is it the Mass Effect and the other one? Not really a game. Hello, Vida. Nice to see you today as well. So that one, like some fantasy characters would... you'd be able to ask them to write up a tweet about the topic of the day or the emoji of the day. Maybe that's the one you're talking about. Not sure. I've done like various small little games. Sometimes I do games to teach web dev. So I did quite a few games to teach React back in the day. I guess like the most surprisingly playable one is the memory game, TechieCat. So if you go to TechieCat and you go to games, it's the memory game, which still has a different game every day. Like you can, like Wordle style, there's going to be a different pattern that everyone gets the same one. here, and you can play. So, but that's the level of game I've created, like something very small, nothing crazy. Oh, we got one. Anyway, what were we saying? So the autoplay, the moment you engage, it stops. I guess we'd need to look into the Embla Carousel autoplay to figure out more options there. Autoplay plugins, autoplay here. How long does it stay? Jump? No. It autoplays. We could use the intersection observer, for example, to only do it when it goes on screen. Stop on mouse center. I think that should be true for good UX. By default, it's not. It does stop on interaction, which is good. And I guess we could do something to restart. No loop parameter, which usually they have, but I guess that's what they're doing. And they have some events to subscribe to. So after a while, like maybe after some inactivity, you could restart it. So every time the user like interacts here, then you can have a timer that starts like, all right, 5 seconds after the last interaction, you can start it there. Cool, I think that's it. So we can do like one final demo for the WebSIF today. SvelteKit snippets hate CSS layouts. Mike is saying, I'm not sure. Not sure. Cool. So more things here. What's the fade thing? Oh, beautiful. So it has like the nice dots to show you how many pictures are there. That's very nice. I would add this to mine. So it is important to know how many you have. Usually Instagram has something like, you know, if it's a reasonable number, like 3, you'd see all of them. But if it's many, then it has like a dot in between. It's still usable. I do think you need this. People need to know how many images they're gonna see. So that's very nice. Auto scroll. It keeps going nicely, so it moves like this. So that's a different effect. Auto height, when you have different images of different heights. Sure. You made a responsive complex layout with svelte snippets and tailwind. Great, that sounds very reasonable. That would make me think that the snippets love layouts. Yeah, I love them. I was surprised. The way you said it, I understood that you were having trouble with them. I like them. So the responsive style I did this, which I'm not sure if it's nice. On big screens, you get this double grid layout. But if you squeeze enough, then each one of them becomes stacked, because this is using container queries. It's one card, it's using container queries to understand how big it is, how big its container is. And if it's too small, then it stacks the content. So if you go here, then you get one grid, but the long version. And again, like the traditional mobile one, if you get to here, then you get the small and stack. Vita says you got 80 stars on your project. Amazing. Worth it for sure. I loved your animation collections. It's really, really cool. I should add more animations, to be honest. All right, so we did this. Let's do the final demo. Call it a day. It's been a while since we've done a short live stream, and it seems like we'll make it today. Of course, always open with questions. We're having fun here. So what we've done today, From the previous episode, we have this little travel app blog, which you can actually click around and play with yourself. It has this nice responsive design. That's by the by. The important thing is that today we created a carousel. We embedded a carousel in each section. The client, which in this case is us, is able to attach some images to any entry. And if an entry has images, then we can show this carousel that even on mobile works well with touch. And when the user first is on the page, then it will be auto-playing, so it's obvious to them. And we can keep adding to the styles, but that's the main thing we did today. So just to demo how this works, because our backend is PocketBase, which is super cool, let's try to add some things here. And yeah, so let's demo that. PocketBase file upload. For now, we want to do the hike one, summer hike in Collserola, which is near Barcelona, or in Barcelona, I guess. So in this record, we have a carousel file field, which only accepts image formats, and it accepts multiple images. On my Finder, I should have a folder for the hike, just 3 pictures there, can drag and drop them nicely, and even reorder them here as I please, even after the fact. Great, I can save the changes. Limitation here, which I hope is changed in the future, is that you can't change the title of any of these. Like, you can't do anything here. My puppy, when she really was a puppy. Anyway, uploaded, done. The moment we're here and the user gets there, they will get the carousel nice and beautiful. It will autoplay for them unless they start interacting. So that's it. Quick way to have something cool like an image carousel on your CMS blog. And you could do this for anything. If it's a marketing page, you can have the what do they call it? The testimonial section. You could have the little tweets show up that say, "Oh, this product is awesome," or the partners. The partners actually is a classic one that used in engineers at LinkedIn, Google, Microsoft, and all of those. You can have a nice carousel of those images. And the moment you get another client that works from Google, then you add like Google as a partner there or something like that. Kind of quickly without you needing to do a code deployment. Your client just does this with the PocketBase UI. And I think that's awesome. I think PocketBase could be the missing piece of great CMS functionality with something like SvelteKit that people have been asking about. So question by Mike, what is my advice to make multiple file uploads ACID compliant? Most cloud providers such AWS won't support batch upload, but support batch deletes. AWS does support batch upload. I think we've shown it on stream. Is my one question. And the other one is, why do you want this to be ACID compliant? And Bide is saying, Svelte with PocketBase is epic. Yes, I agree. I think I'll do more of PocketBase in the future. The more I look into it, the more I like it. A suggestion was to look into the number field for graphs and charts. So let me know if that's what you're thinking about. Oh, Bide is saying PocketBase is built using Svelte. That's awesome. I didn't know that. Is there like anything we could be looking at the layout here, like something like super Svelte? I guess not. If it were SvelteKit, maybe it'd have like a specific ID here, but not really. Table must update in ACID way, but why? So yeah, that's cool that this is using Svelte itself. Next up, would be, like, I was thinking of going over all the possible types of fields you can have in your records. Like you have the regular text field, you can have the rich text. We're having dates. Sometimes dates are confusing to work with, so that's something worth a look. Numbers, of course, doing charts with numbers, that's super exciting. BD saying, just check out the GitHub repo. Of course, that makes sense. Just look at the code and then it's obvious that they have Svelte. Oh, there you go, 19.2%. Like maybe all the UI is Svelte. Nice. SAS, haven't used that in a while. So I did know that a lot of the things are in Go. It's I'd also be excited to try again. It's been a very, very long time since I've tried Go. But I guess it's recommended to use it for the PB hooks, they call them, like to add cron jobs or do some other manipulations there. But if you're working with Svelte, like I am more familiar with JavaScript and TypeScript for sure. So I'd imagine that most people are more familiar doing stuff with JavaScript and TypeScript. But who knows? I've been asked to do like a front-end, not front-end course, like front-end tutorial for back-end people. And sometimes they do Go. Usually they do like Java or Rails or something like that. But that's by the by. I'm transitioning into rambling for sure. PocketBase is quite cool. Just as a concern, maybe I should say this every time. The potential blocker with PocketBase is that it can only scale vertically. So you deploy it somewhere and you can make that machine bigger, like more CPU, more RAM, more storage, great. But it cannot scale horizontally. So you cannot have two machines and delegate some of the traffic to one part of the API and another one, which is a problem with Supabase for most people. Supabase has a beta feature where you can add replica databases around the world, but A, you pay for, and B, that's already beta. But if you're on Supabase, then maybe you wouldn't worry about it too much. But if you're doing Turso, for example, which can easily deploy all around the world, I have like the main one and 5 replicas for some of the websites that I have. Then switch into PocketBase for the CRM functionality. That may be a concern. In real life, I don't think you'd reach the limitations of PocketBase from a single instance. If you do, you can solve it by cachen. Isn't everything made in Go scalable? So anything can be not scalable. Anything you make, like if I write Go, I can definitely make something that's not scalable. It's not like, oh, use Rust. Even if I were to do Rust, I can make it be not scalable and be like bad code and all of that. Some languages like Go that are much better at doing synchronous stuff or are even able to do multiple threaded stuff are more performant usually, but eventually you may come to the bottleneck limit that even this like can only fulfill this many requests per second. Maybe if it was like Rails WebSocket, it could do like 10, and now that it's Go, it can do 10,000, but you will reach that limit theoretically at some point. Maybe for these apps, CMS block style, blockfolio thing, you'd never reach it. I don't think you would. If you did, then you should be looking into caching anyway. So how often are we fetching the data here? Then maybe like we should be caching more and therefore needing less queries to our PocketBase API. So there are ways to get around that. But I think some people will be saying, you know, it doesn't scale horizontally and that's a concern. So I think I should mention that. So you can only make the PocketBase beefier. You cannot do a couple ones. Hotbase with PocketBase. Do you recommend it for local projects that use local networks? PocketBase, I think people are wary to recommend it because it's still in beta and that's it's not on general availability, and because of the it only scales vertically problem. But like my hot take is I recommend it. If what you want is this type of CMS functionality. So you have one client, you want them to be able to add content for like their coffee shop, their different coffee beans. They have like a furniture store, you want them to be able to add their latest furniture or whatever. You build this, you fire and forget. That's how I got into web dev, or almost how I got into web dev, doing stuff like that with WordPress. And this is much better than WordPress. So you don't need to create all of this admin interface for them. Even something like Supabase, the admin interface isn't really for non-technical people. If you're the founder you're building this for, or whoever is a bit technical or has been in the startup space, they will be able to go directly to the Supabase. But even then, I'd be a bit scared that they'll be messing stuff up. I think regular people can use this admin UI great, like regular people can use the WordPress admin UI great. So you can get lots of jobs done. But it depends on what you're building. So what's your business and what's your startup? It's very likely your business, like your unique selling point, like your big thing, is not going to be have a great admin interface. So that makes it using something like PocketBase have extra value. It allows you to have the admin interface and then move to the real special stuff, the real special sauce of your app. So yeah, the bottleneck vertical scalability only concern. I think anyway, all these problems you solve with Casen in a different part of the pipeline. Anyway, it will be a while till you do that. Like, would I do the car app with PocketBase? I don't know. I think even the car app, like the would have worked, which is like the Instagram alternative, right? That was in the news that they had like a big Vercel build and all of that. This one, like, it won't make it or break it because you've used PocketBase for the admin interface. But if every one of these users that signed up, like the UI that you saw to them is the PocketBase UI, like a CRM, WordPress CRM, I don't think they would like it. So I don't think you would make it. So at that point, the way your users are adding content, like the CMS part of the system, becomes important to your flow. So not sure. But if you are Kara and now you want some internal systems to like manage spam reports, for example, or any user reports, then why not make an internal tool with PocketBase? That's for internal apps, 100%. For any app that's like worldwide available, it depends on whether the CMS part of the process is publicly visible. So I wouldn't have my users use this interface, but I would pass this to the client and say, here's how you add and manage your content. Very happily. I think that would make me look very professional. This looks great. It has like crazy filtering systems that take a while to build, and you can even delegate. You can present the constraints that this thing can only do this. So that's what we're gonna do. Firebase Data Connect. I think it's been a while since I've tried Firebase, so I've only read about it. Yeah. I was trying to think, like maybe if I were to do Supabase stuff, I would be doing more about like connecting to data lakes and integrating with other systems and that sort of thing. That would be interesting, actually. I am writing it down. And super interesting questions. And thanks for validating as well that Svelte and PocketBase is like the the new hot combo. And let me know what you'd like to see in the future as well. And apologies if I started rambling because that was definitely off the cuff. Firebase Postgres. Right, I see. Yeah, I think we discussed it a few months ago. And I guess my hot take back then was like, that's proof that Supabase is like getting big and popular, that Firebase is finally moving and saying we are offering Postgres now. And I did sign up for early access for that one, but they haven't invited me yet. So I don't have any thoughts. And then I forgot about it. Like, is it on general availability yet? Yeah, no. So I've signed up for early access, and that's it. If I get in, I will definitely let you know. I will do a live stream about it, and then we'll all know more. New Gen AI experiences. Wow. New Gen AI. I'm surprised the LinkedIn recruiters are not spamming me with this line. What a line. You have early access, but but you have to pay. That's how they get you. It's like, do you want like the NoSQL, like kind of slow, eventually consistent one for free? Or do you want Postgres for money? That's the hard choices that you have to make sometimes. That's how they get you. How to host PocketBase applications. So I have, as you know, it takes me a while to like record and make videos. And the one I'm trying to record and make now is this, like how to deploy PocketBase to Fly IO from local DevX to version control to CI/CD. So this is how you can do it. But it's gonna be like under 20-minute video, so it may take me like 20 years to actually make it. I have done it in this code base. So if you have access to this code base, you can pretty much see what is happening. The main idea is, I'm not sure if you've seen, there is this PocketBase discussion that Jani, the maintainer of PocketBase, has led and created on how to deploy to Fly and how to use a Docker file. But I still found this needed a few tweaks. And most of all, how do I work with like local development was my big question, because it seemed that most people go and download the executable and then what? Like, do you overwrite it if you want to upgrade the version? If you want to work in like a different laptop, like, do you have to download it there and put it, like, what do you commit to version control? It was like quite a few questions for me. And what I did is that since you need a Docker file anyway to deploy to Fly, I've made like a few scripts in order to have my local machine on dev build or run the Docker image that will be deployed to Fly anyway. Mounting a few volumes, so this is like the part where you will probably need to see the code and not me just telling you this, that makes sure that anything you are changing in your local app will produce the files for you to be able to commit to version control and deploy to Fly. So for example, now we've updated the travels collection to add the thumbs. So here in our carousel, we've updated the collection to create these thumb sizes, and that automatically that causes PocketBase to automatically create a migration there. If you weren't doing the volume mounting, then this would be invisible to you. It would be like in a Docker container and you need to find it, and then you'd delete the container and restart it, and then it disappeared. But now, because we are mounting these local directories that are in the repo thanks to GitKeep, they get synchronized. So the files they create are made available, are visible to you easily, and can be committed to version control. So you can have your migrations there. I think that's a critical part of what I did. So what's in that discussion, like slight tweaks and making sure that I can actually run the Docker file we deploy to Fly locally. So that was huge for me. What do I write? What can I commit to version control? And how do I run this locally? That's the basis, I guess, of the video, which somehow is going to be like 15 minutes or something. Have I tried Coolify? Yes. Let's see. That it auto-completed. I think you've asked me before. And it was like a render or Fly alternative, right? I remember now. You're hoping for a video based on Svelte PocketBase. Simple project with hosting. Yeah. I think, so in my head, this would have been like a warm-up video, like, an easy video. It's after deployment. How long can it be, Johnny? And it's like 20 minutes because I think about edge cases. And then I would do one, how can you do a lightweight CRM with PocketBase and Svelte? Because I am excited about this, which is always good. And I can see that other people are excited and getting on board with that combo. So I do want to make this, but realistically, I'm just so bad at editing videos. Like I obsess too much over them. So I promise I'll do my best to not over edit and overproduce them and get them out. But even the deployment one, just for PocketBase, is taking a while, so we'll see. But yeah, hopefully that one is out, and then I'll look into the lightweight CMS, Svelte, and PocketBase, how you can start. SvelteKit, Supabase, and Vercel. Yeah, Supabase is still very good. And that's my concern. It's like, if you want to make something that's CMSable, like something that you can deliver to the client and tell him, add the records here and update your coffee stock or whatever you're selling here. I don't think that'd be the best. Supabase would be best for that, because you'd need to build the CRUD UI to do the operations, which is fine. You know, you can build it for sure. But I do like the PocketBase admin UI so much that I'm like, why can I not use that one? But that's the main difference. So if you are delivering to a client and they need to manage content, I would say PocketBase. But if it's just like a regular different type of startup where they're not managing records like this, then yeah, Supabase still remains awesome for sure. And the SvelteKit part, I would still deploy to Vercel for sure, because they have like the preview deployments. They have an easy integration with GitHub that you can run your end-to-end tests without you needing to do like too much. Turbo repo works great, so this monorepo has turbo repo set up. So even though I do deploy the PocketBase thing with Fly, the web app is still Vercel. I still love Vercel. So yeah, great questions. Maybe I should try to do like shorter videos more often, because it led to, you know, me being more energized maybe, and getting great questions at the chat and having a great discussion in the end. But thanks everyone for your time, and particularly you in the chat for all of this. Excited to do more, and you have a little heads up of what I'll be working on. On Friday, we'll see if we'll do more PocketBase fields or graphs with like PocketBase data or something like that. We'll see. That's the thing that's been into my head for the live stream, but let me know if you have other suggestions as well. That's gonna be it for today. Once again, thanks a bunch for watching, and I'll see you around.